Welcome back to the 5th International Congress of Technology Addiction. The chair of our first session will be the president of country Green Crescent, Malaysia, Dr. Ahmed Mohamed Fairuz, joined again by most valuable speakers. Now, I would like to briefly introduce our session speakers. Dr. Natasha Carriger, joining us from Switzerland, is a doctor and consultant. She works at the World Health Organization's Alcohol, Drugs, and Addictive Behaviors Unit. She will deliver a presentation on assessing the impact of COVID-19 on problematic gaming and gambling, results from an international key informant survey. Dr. Sophia Schaub, joining from Switzerland as well, is a doctor, responsibility reconnector of the University Hospitals of Geneva. She is also the section head at the WHO World Health Organization Collaborating Center in Training and Research of Geneva University. She will deliver a presentation on the mitigating public health challenges of gaming disorder. Dr. Zhang Long, joining from China, is a psychiatrist at Shanghai Mental Health Center, Shanghai Jiao Tong University, Schools of Medicine. By the way, sorry if I'm pronounced wrongly. Dr. Chang Lo delivers a presentation on national clinical guidelines and expert consensus for gaming disorder recently released by National Health Commission of China. At the end of the session, the speakers have been reserved 5 minutes each, during which they answer questions from the audience. Dear speakers, welcome again to the 5th International Congress on the Technology Addiction. And now I would like to leave the floor to Dr. Ahmed Mohamed Fairuz to moderate this session. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Miss our MC for today. Kensu. All right. Okay, I'm Dr. Fairuz. Okay, welcome to all our speakers and all our participants. And now we have more than 800 participants. Okay, hi everyone. All right, now is our session 4 for our second day, the 5th International Congress of Technology Addiction. Okay, as we know that we have of us. Okay, so hope we can give as much as information to everyone because the facts that you give will benefit all over the countries in the world, especially here every countries are facing with the pandemic COVID-19. So this I think the International Congress is very important to all the countries. Okay, without further ado, I would like to proceed with first presentation by Dr. Natasha, and with the topic of assessing the impact of COVID-19 on problematic gaming and gambling, results from an international key informant survey. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could I please confirm? Could you please confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, can.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to present here today. So I am going to give a presentation on some work I was involved in last year, which examined the impact of the pandemic on problematic gaming and gambling using an international key informant expert survey. I have a dual affiliation. I'm a consultant in the Alcohol, Drugs and Addictive Behaviors Unit at WHO headquarters, and I'm also a visiting fellow at the National Drug and Alcohol Research Centre in Sydney, Australia. So just a short disclaimer before we begin. The views expressed in this presentation do not necessarily represent the decisions, the policies, or the views of the World Health Organization. The presentation that I'm going to give is based on a paper that's currently under review in International Gambling Studies. And here is a list of my co-authors, as well as an acknowledgement of colleagues and the experts that were involved in the study and made this possible. So let's talk about the background to the work. As part of public health measures to mitigate the spread of the pandemic, governments around the world imposed a wide range of national restrictions and physical distancing measures. These measures, which included the closure, for example, of educational institutions, have had profound social, financial, occupational, and health consequences. And they have particularly affected vulnerable groups, such as those who are affected by or at risk of developing addictive behaviours. Research suggests that addictive behaviours are exacerbated when there is an absence of positive reinforcers, such as social activities and interactions. The pandemic social restrictions and lockdowns have reportedly increased involvement with digital entertainment, such as online gaming. And echoing a point that Associate Professor Daniel King raised in a previous talk, it's important to recognise that high engagement in gaming is not necessarily problematic, as gaming can be used as an adaptive coping strategy to combat loneliness, stress, boredom, frustration, and low mood, particularly in situations like the pandemic when there may be limited alternative activities. However, that being said, excessive gaming for extended periods of time can become a problem for some players, including vulnerable groups such as children and adolescents. The concern is really that extended periods of social restrictions and lockdowns may establish unhealthy patterns of gaming and present barriers to treatment. Thinking now about gambling. During the pandemic, many land-based gambling venues were closed and most sporting events around the world were cancelled, which raised concerns about some potential migration of vulnerable groups may be associated with gambling initiation and increases in problem gambling. We see from the literature that peer-reviewed papers and reports are examining the impact of the pandemic and they're continuing to emerge. And this has included some international studies which have reported on the perceived impact of the pandemic on alcohol and drugs. However, to the best of our knowledge, no international survey investigated the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on issues relating to problematic gaming and gambling. And this is particularly important as this research could contribute to public health monitoring activities and health service responses. All of this in mind, we conducted a survey to try to address this gap. The data reported in my presentation are actually part of a wider online study that examined the impact of the pandemic on alcohol, drugs, and addictive behaviours. But as I said, I'll just focus on addictive behaviours for this talk. The study was conducted in partnership with academics, with clinicians, and the Alcohol, Drugs and Addictive Behaviours Unit at WHO headquarters in Geneva as part of a shared commitment to undertake public health monitoring and surveillance activities in substance use and addictive behaviours. The study involved an online survey, which was administered last year during the first wave of the pandemic. And essentially, it was a qualitative survey that involved experts who were professionals with research and or clinical experience in substance use or addictive behaviours. We asked these experts 10 open-ended questions about governmental and societal responses at national and municipality levels to the pandemic. The experts were identified based on a number of different criteria, and this included authorship of peer-reviewed papers on substance use or addictive behaviours, experience assessing and treating patients with substance use or addictive behaviours, membership of relevant editorial boards, membership of the ICD-11 working group on the classification of substance-related and addictive disorders, and also some may have participated in the WHO expert meetings on the public health implications of addictive behaviours and gambling disorder. We made efforts to identify experts from a wide range of countries, and in total, overall, 115 experts were identified and contacted, and we received responses from 68. So now, like I said, let's focus on addictive behaviours. So we received responses from 29 gambling experts, and they are listed here. They are from 18 countries. The numbers here in brackets, they indicate the number of experts from that particular country. And so of these 28 experts, 65.5% or 19 were male. In terms of gaming, 27 gaming experts provided responses, and they originated from 18 countries. And again, the majority, 21, were male. So, as I said, we asked experts to answer 10 open-ended questions, and I want to just take you through those. So we asked experts to that in response to the pandemic to describe any changes they observed in policies or regulations for licensing, marketing, sales for gaming or gambling. And then related to this, we asked them to describe any challenges in policy and regulations, and then any responsive measures that may have been introduced or under development to address those challenges. We also asked our experts to describe any challenges relating to prevention, treatment, or care services for gambling or gaming-related problems, and any responsive measures that may have been discussed or introduced to address such challenges. We also asked the experts to indicate any issues relating to addictive behaviours that may have attracted media attention, as well as any changes in online gaming or gambling patterns, any changes in health-related outcomes, and any changes in marketing or corporate social responsibility activities by the industry to promote. Finally, we included an open-ended question which allowed experts to provide any information that perhaps was not covered in our previous questions. In terms of the analysis, the responses were analysed independently by myself and my co-author, Dr. Jiang Long, who's also presenting in the session, using manifest content analysis. So we stayed really quite close to the text and created categories. The final results and conclusions were shared with a subset of participants in order to confirm the accuracy and allow us to minimise researcher bias. So let's jump into a summary of the gaming results. In the paper, we present quotes for the different questions, but due to time constraints, I haven't done that here, so this is just an overview. So firstly, we found that most countries do not have policies and regulations relating to gaming, and no changes to retail or online gaming licenses occurred in response to the outbreak. Some experts reported changes in gaming health-related outcomes, such as sleep problems or weight gain, while other experts indicated that they didn't have any data available. Many experts reported increased industry marketing, for example, through indirect and direct esports promotion, as well as the industry's Play a Part Together campaign. And this contrasted with other experts who reported no changes in advertising, marketing, or corporate social responsibility activities. In some countries, gaming was featured in the media. For example, the topic of the legality of offshore gaming operators was touched upon, but gaming didn't feature in the media of other countries. Some experts reported significant increases in the sale of games and consoles, as well as in-app purchases, the amount of time spent playing online games, viewership of online gaming channels, and the availability of free online gaming platforms. And by contrast, other experts indicated that they didn't have access to relevant data. The increases in hardware sales were speculated to reflect new recruits to gaming, and relatedly, the school closures and the stay-at-home mandates were reported to be associated with increased gaming participation and recruitment of new users. Some experts commented that some platforms also offered games from the 1980s and the 1990s as a way of attracting older players. While services for problematic gaming and gambling obviously differ between countries, some common challenges were reported by our experts. And this included, for example, limited prevention and service provision in the public sector for gaming problems, and difficulty accessing patients due to shutdown and stay-at-home mandates. Many experts reported that no measures were introduced or under development to address these challenges that I just mentioned, because online gaming is not perceived to be a major issue in many countries, such as Australia, Belgium, Brazil, and New Zealand. At the same time, there is little guidance and no systematic prevention measures or monitoring systems. Other experts reported a move to telemedicine, as well as some face-to-face services happening with precautions, and the provision of more information online about management of gaming and other digital media use among young people. So let's turn now to the gambling results. We found that regardless of the legal status of gambling, no changes to policy or regulations related to gambling licensing, advertising, marketing, or sales were reported. Several gambling policy and regulation challenges were identified, for example, the presence of offshore companies and the absence of national systematic preventative initiatives. Some countries did not introduce any measures to respond to these challenges, whereas in other countries, measures were introduced or proposed, such as the blocking of online providers and the introduction of universal loss limits. No information on illicit gambling sales was reported in countries where gambling is prohibited, and decreased gambling sales due to COVID-19 restrictions were reported in countries where gambling is legal. Increases in online gambling were reported in a number of countries, but several experts commented that the substitution effect was not large enough to offset the substantial losses from electronic gaming machines or slot machines. We found mixed evidence on gambling advertising. For example, some increases in television and online advertising were reported, as well as marketing of consumer credits and instant loans in some countries, whereas in other countries, they reported that the industry actually scaled back their activities. Generally, face-to-face appointments for gambling-related problems and group meetings stopped during the lockdown, and as a result, remote-based services were widely introduced, but we had mixed evidence on treatment demand. Gambling did receive some media attention in some countries. For example, increases in online gambling and potential risk to gambling-related harms were touched upon. And in countries where gambling is prohibited, such as Brazil, there was increased pressure to legalize sports betting gambling reported in the media. One expert also remarked that gambling seemed to receive more media coverage than gaming received more media coverage than gambling. Several resource barriers were also identified to gambling services, and these included the limited number of treatment facilities and the absence of national prevention and treatment guidelines. So now, thinking about the implications of all of this, the findings underscore the need to include gaming disorder in particular on public health agendas in recognition of the harms associated with excessive gaming. Supportive governments and local authorities are essential for raising funding to support prevention, treatment and care initiatives, as well as the development and implementation of evidence-based policies, regulations and programs. It's clear from our study that there really is a dearth of national guidelines on the management of problematic gaming and gambling. There are limited prevention resources and no monitoring or surveillance systems to facilitate systematic, ongoing data collection, analysis, and dissemination. And increases in the popularity and industry promotion of esports highlights that further research really is needed to better understand those who engage with esports. The Gaming Industries Play a Part Together campaign was a promotional campaign that involves special events and rewards to encourage people to play video games at home as part of physical distancing measures to halt the spread of the virus. The media and even some scholars misinterpreted the campaign as a partnership with the WHO. And the WHO, it's important to note, did not formally or informally engage with the gaming industry, but rather released physical distancing and hygiene advice and encouraged individuals and organisations to follow the advice in order to halt the spread of the virus. Increases in online gambling were reported, including unregulated offshore gambling websites. And this was a topic that was raised yesterday by the speaker, Dr. Sally Ginsbury. This raises concerns about the potential absence of protective measures such as time and spending limits, and also highlights the need to review existing gambling regulations and policies. Additionally, surveillance is required to determine if the closure of land-based gambling venues will lead to a long-term shift in online gambling patterns. This really has important public health implications, as we're aware from the literature that the online environment itself can promote increased risk-taking and reduced inhibitions. And we also are aware that online casino games are associated with higher potential of gaming-related harm and higher prevalence of gambling disorder. Gambling among youths is particularly concerning due to the rapid advances that we've seen in technology, as well as increased internet speed and availability, the increased accessibility of gambling on smartphones, and increasing convergence between online gaming and gambling, which Associate Professor Dr. King spoke about. Increases in online gambling as a result of the pandemic highlight the need to reconsider traditional prevention and management strategies, which are unlikely to be effective at the population level. It is important to monitor changes in gambling policy and regulation landscapes as a result of the pandemic, as well as the associated public health implications. The pandemic has increased the need to develop access pathways to individuals at risk for developing gaming disorder or gambling disorder. And again, echoing Associate Professor King's presentation, it would be helpful if the gambling and gaming industries increase efforts to diminish harm, facilitate help seeking by providing corresponding solutions, and recognise the evidence on problem gaming and gaming disorder. So we believe that our study had a number of strengths. Firstly, we believe that the study addressed a gap in the literature by documenting the impact of the pandemic on problematic gaming and gambling in a number of different countries. The survey was not anonymous, which may have increased accountability among our experts and led to more considered responses. The findings were circulated to a subset of participants to allow confirmation of accuracy and minimisation of research bias. Like all studies, however, we have our limitations. Our study was only produced in English. The responses were self-report, and in many cases were derived from a single focal point in each country. And also, despite our efforts, no low-income countries were included. Therefore, response bias cannot be ruled out considering these factors. Due to the rapidly evolving nature of the pandemic, countries were at different stages of the pandemic and policy responses when we conducted our survey. Therefore, differences between the experts' experiences are likely. The survey focused on national trends, and therefore regional variations were not taken into account. So finally, the purpose of this study was to provide a rapid preliminary insight into the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on addictive behaviours around the world in order to monitor trends in different countries and to identify service gaps and emerging needs during the pandemic and for similar future public health emergencies. The rapid ongoing development of the pandemic, including the emergence, as we're seeing at the moment, of different variants and different levels of quarantine and social restrictions, underscores the need to continue monitoring activities on problematic gaming and gambling, including patterns in low-income countries. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. Here's my email address if you would like any more information on our study. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Natasha. Okay, from your presentation, thank you for your fruitful presentation. We have a lot of information, update, and especially the research. And now I think everyone know that we are facing with what we can say is double burden, gaming disorder and at the same time with the gambling disorder. These two things is correlated between each others, and even though we are met with the COVID-19 pandemic, but it not stop the industry. And even Dr. Natasha mentioned that this industry took an advantage, and that they have the campaign on play apart, play together. So this is the things that highlighted everyone from other countries as well to aware of this disorder, gaming and gambling disorder, and we of the policy anti-right in terms of the treatment and intervention and to curb this progress of gambling disorder and gambling disorder. All right. Okay. We have the Q&A after this, and so we will proceed until the end. So we go Dr. with the Dr. Safia, and for the next speaker, mitigating public health challenges of gambling disorder. Please, Dr. Natasha. Dr. Sofia.
Dr. Asham, thank you very much for having me in this Congress. My very pleasure to be here with you all. Do you hear me clearly? Can you confirm?
Your sound is not not loud, not very clear.
This is my tone is not very clear now.
Now it's better. You need to more closer with your mic.
I don't have any. Maybe some other person is using, because I'm using my headset.
Or you can speak a bit louder. Okay now. Okay.
Don't have any other source of noise. Okay, so we'll share my screen. You see my screen?
Okay, good.
Yes, it's okay. Okay, my pleasure being here to speak about mitigating public health challenges of gaming disorder. My conflicts of interest are no more than those resulting from my formal affiliations as a clinician at University Hospitals of Geneva, delivering treatments to patients for gaming disorder and for other addictive behaviors. I run a specialized treatment facility dedicated to those people. And I also give lectures at Geneva University. I have a hybrid profile, so with research, trainings, and public health mandates within WHO Collaborating Center for Training and Research, and also for Federal Office of Public Health, being part of the expert group for cyber addiction and advising different public health entities regarding to these issues. So my talk is aiming at serving to the people who are managing health facilities and systems, and the arguments that can serve to focus on gaming disorder as a health condition. So gaming disorder has an alarming magnitude worldwide, with new standards.
Miss Sofia,
yes?
Sorry to interrupt you actually, yes. But we can't hear you so clearly. Could you please your voice louder? Or do you hear me?
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I think she has some technical issues.
Can you hear me better?
Is this almost
okay? Yes, I will try another way. Sorry for that.
Okay. Maybe have some fix. Yeah, it's better.
Okay, this is better with no.
Yeah, this is better for me, but I'm checking with my friends, my technical friends.
Sorry for that.
Okay. Okay, it's better. My technical friends warned me. I just wanted to ask you, could you please speak loudly, please? Thank you.
Yes, yes. So we are sorry for.
But one more thing. I'm so sorry to interrupt you again.
Yes.
My friends warned me to your screen sharing, your presentation. Is it wrong or correct one? I think
it's the good one.
It's the good one. Okay. Actually, I didn't understand the problem. Okay. Your presentation is the good and correct one, right?
Yes. It has.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please go on.
Yes.
Sorry.
No problem. Sorry for technical issues. So.
But yes, I just get it. The problem. Okay. One more thing. I'm reading what they told me. We see two screens actually.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you should stop the screen and share again, okay?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, we are waiting, no rush. I'm so sorry again to interrupt your amazing presentation, but I need to warn.
Do you see better my screen?
Yeah, I think it's better, but I need to. Yes, okay. My friends warn me. It's okay. It's super done. The stage is yours again. I'm so sorry.
It's sorry perfect. For that. So gaming disorder has an alarming magnitude worldwide with the new standards in our society that are going for some kind of new behaviors that we are learning the more we use the technology, such as immediate gratification, such as social comparisons, and polarization of discourse from an early age of internet users. And this is a result from rapid and massive penetration of digital technology, which has taken societies and their social health educational organization by surprise. So you have to have in mind that prevalence of problematic internet use, including gaming disorder, for example, could be up to 26% worldwide, depending on the samples, on the tools used, and on the countries. More prevalence, more rates among the massive adopters of new technologies, such as young people and those countries with a strong digital expansion. So gaming disorder is related, has been shown to be related in the WHO report that you can find online, 2014 report, related to, so WHO, due to that, took position with ongoing work on that since 2014, and ultimately with the inclusion of gaming disorder within the ICD-11 criteria. Treatment response had to develop worldwide, adapting to the demands, the increasing demands worldwide. So special treatment programs for gaming disorder has been developed and established, whether integrated within services for mental health or for substance use disorders in terms of standalone services, public or private. We can also say that gaming disorder, I'm working in this field since 2005, and I'm running specialized, pioneering specialized clinical facility in this issue since more than a decade now, and we have seen the trends of demands coming from patients and relatives, and we are facing more and more challenging treatment settings with, for example, the total social avoidance. And this is very critical issue in clinical settings for health facilities specialized in gaming disorder, which is the problem of the relatives facing a great problem with one gamer with total social avoidance in his or her room since several months or years. And also, we are aware that the treatment for gaming disorders have evolved from the illness-oriented treatment approach towards the individual-oriented approach. And this is what we are doing in Switzerland, in Geneva, in HeConnect, which is integrating the clinical, social, financial, and emotional dimensions of the disorder. The need of good practices and guidelines development for clinical settings, and also to adapt the treatment approaches to different subsamples, such as youth, elderly, and gender elderly. We just published a study comparing a sample of seniors in Switzerland and in Poland, and internet-related disorders are present in people aged over 65 years old, even if we do not think about these kind of subpopulations. And another issue, public health issue facing the managers of health system worldwide is the treatment coverage. So treatment coverage is a challenge for gaming disorder because in absence of, for example, recognized health condition for gaming disorder before inclusion by WHO, there were issues related to health insurance coverage, of course, because in the absence of coding, you cannot be, for example, covered by health insurances. There is also an issue related to the access to treatment, and which needs an increase in awareness about the disorder, awareness of public, but also awareness of health professionals, and the use of different treatment vectors to reach out those people in need for treatment, even in remote areas, even in the absence, for example, of specialized treatment facilities present. Another issue, it is the follow-up data available for the monitoring of at national level or local level of care services to document the scale of the problem, the age, gender, and distribution of cases, the health and social consequences of the conditions, and the medical costs involved for treating gaming disorder. And also early identification and intervention, and also training. These two aspects, so we run with Federal Office of Public Health in 2017 in Switzerland, a study on how the patient and relatives are using the addiction facilities and mental health services for gaming disorder and other internet-related disorders, and what we have heard from the participants, which are some health professionals specialized in addiction medicine, nurses, doctors, social workers, was that the demands were increasing, and that they were in need of training and specialized resources to early identify and to know how to intervene with those patients and with parents, for example, for media use, how to counsel. There is no guidance on that. Another challenge, public health challenge regarding gaming disorder, is for treatment delivery systems with the need to work on the facilities that are in charge of these disorders, and how they are networking, they are communicating with other facilities and integrated in national planning and monitoring. So basically, in terms of framework, also, should we target all the population, all connected, all addicts? The answer is no, as you know from the beginning of this Congress, because we have three interrelated factors to take into consideration, which are the individual with individual risk factors, but also the activity, here the online gaming with some properties, addictive properties, engaging more and more the gamer, and also the environment, which is the gaming taking place, the gaming behavior taking place. And these three elements are necessary at the same time to speak about formal gaming disorder. An issue is identifying the boundaries. So how much is too much? With the talk from my colleague John Saunders yesterday, you have a clear idea about the criteria by WHO to define what is a gaming disorder and also hazardous gaming. The difficulty here for health systems is to recognize the type of disorders, because there is no more unique gaming disorder clinical presentation, but we have a blurring of boundaries between gaming disorder, gambling disorder, social networking disorders, and you have, for example, some items of social networks within video games and some components of video games within gambling, and this has been presented by excellent colleagues during this Congress. In terms of defining what is the issue at hand, what is the disorder to treat, the first disorder, primary disorder, secondary disorder, this is an issue. This is the care process model I developed in 2014 that I'm sharing with you. Why? Because it has been developed when I was seeing patients as a clinician, as a psychotherapist, trained psychotherapist. So I had no issue to see patients. But with the increase of demands, what occurred to our facility is that I needed more resources, and these resources were not necessarily specialized. So I needed to tell the nurse I have recruited how to evaluate, how to deal with the demands of these patients. So basically, I synthesized my approach to evaluate those patients. They are, for example, the motives for treatment seeking were primary acute psychiatric disorder or intrafamily conflicts about the use of internet, including gaming, or problematic internet use, including gaming, with or without a psychiatric comorbidity such as anxiety disorder, depression, ADHD, or schizophrenia. So after 3 or 4 sessions of evaluation, in these sessions, what was assessed? We were assessing the treatment expectancies with the patient and relatives, and also assessing the psychiatric status and looking for some other comorbidities, social comorbidities, psychiatric comorbidities, and also somatic comorbidities. At the same time, during these 3-4 sessions of assessment by the non-specialized resource, health professional resource, we were also given some brief interventions and psychoeducation on the media, mostly with the relatives. And the result of this assessment was we couldn't find problematic internet use, including gaming disorder. It happens in 1/3 of the cases. And in the rest of the cases, we have a formal disorder and we go for treatment. And this can go to the specialized psychotherapist. We use in my facility different approaches. We use pharmacologic comorbidities, severe psychiatric comorbidities. We give some social interventions and systemic psychotherapy. We consider the whole system, the family, the couple, the school environment, the work environment also in our approach. And we deliver individual cognitive and behavioral treatment and motivational interviewing with a specific focus on motives of internet use, which are very important, as I have presented yesterday my colleague Joël Bidieu. So basically, this is an answer to the question, okay, there is a lot in the literature. What should I do with this information when I'm dealing with patients in my facility? What should I assess for, and how should I organize the care process model? So this is an example of what I did in Switzerland in Reconnect. Policy making. This is a challenging behavior. In Switzerland, we started in 2007 with the first query about the harms, the potential harms related to gaming disorder to youth. And we have followed different steps all over the years. And the Federal Council has gave to Federal Office of Public Health a specific mandate for national epidemiological data collection and constituted the Federal Expert Advisory Board I'm part of to counsel on what should be done, for example, in terms of policymaking and prevention and treatment actions. And Federal Council also gave to the Federal Office of the Social Insurance the mandate to protect the youth from media harmful patterns of use and to act on developing the media skills. So we have a formal national plan on media use enhancement skills for the youth and for their relatives, which is called the Jeunes Media. And also in 2019, we started talking about legislation to protect the youth from the video content, including gaming, from improper content, for example. And this has been a journey, and the NDA ending in 2015 with the planning of the Strategic National Addiction Plan 2017-2024, which included addictive behaviors, namely gaming and internet-related disorders, gambling also, within addictions broadly. And this is a very pioneering action at national level. At Federal Office of Public Health Expert Group, we replied to the need that we identified in 2017 regarding the need for treatment for professionals to have some kind of landmarks on how to deal with demands arising from relatives on the media use, including gaming. So we developed a guide. I was part of the working group, and with some colleagues, we released it the last year. And we developed a guide for non-specialized professionals to counsel parents for media use. And the rationale was the emerging field that also most demands came from relatives, and that we had limited specialized resources, and the access to them in terms of cost of remote areas was an issue for us. And also the lack of marks for non-specialized professionals, as I said. Our vision in this work was that online activities, including gaming, were meaningful to those who are engaging in them, while they may be viewed as a risk by those around them, the parents, for example. And it was therefore important to deepen discussions on this phenomenon in a cultural, family, and individual context away from any normative posture. And the design of this tool was a synthetic, iterative, descriptive scheme of the issues related to screen use. And we also provided a toolbox made of 6 principal themes to be considered when assessing for screen use: physiological needs, vulnerability factors, the family context, the social context, but also digital culture. What is digital culture within the family or for the gaming, the gamer? And what are also the resources at play, and not only the risk factors, also capitalizing on personal, family, social resources at hand. And we provided also a set of online national literature resources to broaden the knowledge on the 6 themes when needed by the health professional. And the counseling take-home messages for the parents were to try to find the balance in rule setting, in their own rule setting within their family, try to be coherent when setting rules in terms also of modeling their proper use, and staying connected within the family, communicating about this gaming, what is going in this platform, and what is experienced by the gamer in a positive way also in this environment. So to conclude, for those managing health system, public health professionals, it is to policy making and managing gaming disorder is an endeavor with a lot of challenges. It is in an era, digital era, that we should take into account, not over pathologizing some kind of normal behavior, to take into account that policy making should be on controlling for individual risk factors, but also for the addictive properties of the online activities, such as said by Daniel King, and also for the environment with structural decisions and to apply to protect vulnerable people for gaming disorder. And also the issue of capacity building that should be monitored, and you cannot improve what you don't measure. So you have to plan it, to do it, and also to monitor it. This is a challenge for all of us at the public health level, with the inclusion of gaming disorder by WHO, because this inclusion serves a public health purpose. A very important one is to unify the criteria used to code for this disorder and to include it in a health coverage system, and to speak the same language, and to compare data and to benchmark with other countries. Thank you very much. I have a lot of facilities and associations to thank for my work every day. And you can reach out with my email address if you need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sophia, for the great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have a lot of information from the Dr. Sophia, highlighted the importance of public health action on gaming disorders. And so this is, I think, to the wake-up call to all the countries, and we need to have the awareness, we need the capacity building, and to prepare for the facing this gaming disorder. We know that this industry is growing like the mushroom, right? So therefore, our capacity and the demand is there. The demand is growing. And as highlighted by Dr. Sophia, is that how we can do early detection and to detect all the gaming disorder, the health related with the gaming disorder for the youth, especially for the youth, and also for the elderly as well, as you highlighted. And then I'm interested with your you use the model, like the what we call it, the epic triangle model. So we have the environment, we have the individual concept, and gaming disorder. Before this, we use epic triangle, the agent for all the microorganism, for virus, bacteria. You change now the epic triangle change to gaming disorder. It's very interesting. And so this actually we need to tackle individual intervention, environment, and also the policy makers and for the gaming industry as well. Okay, in terms of intervention, and Dr. Sophia already shared her experience in terms of the approach, in terms of the biological, psychosocial, and social intervention for individuals who are facing with the gaming disorder or health-related gaming disorder. Okay, thank you, Dr. Sophia. Now we are going for the third presenter, Dr. Jiang Long, with the topic of National Clinical Guideline and Expert Consensus for Gaming Disorder, recently released by National Health Commission of China. Please welcome Dr. Jiang Long.
Okay, can you hear me clearly? I just want to confirm this.
Yes. Your slide also
okay.
good.
Okay, good. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, colleagues. I'm Jiang Long. I'm a psychiatrist and a researcher at Shanghai Mental Health Center and Shanghai Jiao Tong University School of Medicine, which is a WHO collaborating center for research and training in mental health. And I'm also a scientific collaborator at the Université Catholique de Louvain in Belgium.
Sorry, Dr. Jiang, do you on your video? I cannot see your face.
Can you see me
Yes.
now?
Yes,
sorry.
now
Okay.
it's okay. Okay. All
Okay,
right,
thank
good.
you.
Handsome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So before my presentation, I want to make a disclaimer. So I worked for the WHO and the National Health Commission of China before, but I would like to highlight that I'm the only one who is responsible for the views expressed in this presentation, and they do not necessarily present the decision or policies from the WHO or National Health Commission of China. Except this one, I have no other conflict of interest to declare. So before I introduce the national clinical guidelines and the expert consensus for gaming disorder from China, I would like to introduce the status quo of online gaming in China. As you can see in this figure, which I drafted a report from the China Internet Information Center, and by the end of 2020, there are about 580 million of online game users in China, which is a huge population. And despite of, as you can see here, in the middle of the, there is a red iron here, is that actually in the year of 2020, the population of online game users in China actually dropped a little bit, potentially caused by the COVID-19 situation in China. So as so many people are playing games in China, we practitioners, we found that online gaming, especially excessive online gaming, that can cause some problems. Common problems include, first one is poor workplace or school performance, and various health problems and financial or legal disputes. And the final one is social interaction problems and violent behaviors. And we also found especially young minors are most affected negatively by excessive gaming, or sometimes we call it gaming addiction for lay people. According to a systematic review of the evidence published in Chinese, we found that the prevalence rates of problematic online gaming in China range from 3.5 to 17%. The prevalence rates vary in different populations, but especially in the prevalence is higher than the other populations. In my opinion, it is a great move by WHO, because in 2019, gaming disorder was officially included in the 11th edition of the International Classification of Diseases. As you can see here, gaming disorder, along with gambling disorder, was listed as disorders due to addictive behaviors in the ICD-11, released by the WHO. And after the inclusion, the National Health Commission of China convened national experts from different associations and issued a document which is expert consensus on prevention and treatment for gaming disorder. This document systematically states GD, experts' consensus on gaming disorder, including gaming disorders definition, clinical features, risk factors, and their principles and the principles and measures of intervention and treatment. And the final one is suggestions for further work against the gaming disorder in China. And then in 2020, National Health Commission of China, after so many rounds of expert consultation, the National Health Commission of China issued another document entitled Clinical Guidelines for Gaming Disorder. This document states the latest understanding on gaming disorder and the evidence-based recommendations on the clinical management for gaming disorder, including gaming disorder's definition and epidemiology, etiology, and clinical features and its evaluation, diagnosis and differential diagnosis, and treatment principles, and its management suggestions for on those two documents. I'm going to introduce the understandings and recommendations from Chinese experts for gaming disorder. So first one is definition. So as you can see here, the definition provided by Chinese experts actually is disorder in the ICD-11, because Chinese experts basically think that the definition is very well defined the disorder. So basically, there are four core features for the disorder, which is impaired control over gaming, an increasing priority given to gaming, continuation period of time. And for gaming disorders epidemiology, Chinese experts basically had the consensus that the population process of the gaming disorder. For first one is neurobiological factors, including structural and functional abnormalities in frontal and ventral dorsal striatum, and functional abnormalities of dopamine. The second one is psychological factors, including high level of impulsiveness, neuroticism, self-esteem, self-efficacy, and life satisfaction. Regarding social and familiar factors, it includes low level of social support and low level of interpersonal communication, negative parenting style, and family discord and relationship failures. And the last one is addictive nature of video games, because Dr. Daniel King talked about it, and it was very clear. And nowadays, so many scientists and psychologists and other computer scientists are working for the gaming industry, and they created a lot of mechanism, or I can say it's an algorithm, to push games and make them more addictive to previous games we had. And for its clinical features, that I would not spend much time on this, because it's a game. We just need to remember several keywords for gaming disorder. The first one is persistent or recurrent, and the second one is impaired control, increasing priority, or significant impairment, which again is consistent with the descriptions for gaming disorder in the ICD-11. But Chinese experts also found that individuals with gaming disorder tends to have some personality changes, for example, unsociable or mendacious or rebellious, and they often also have some interest change, and they also tend to have psychological symptoms, some psychological symptoms, for example, OCD, anxiety, and depression, paranoid, and somatization symptoms. And they also tend to have physical problems, some specific physical problems, for example, sleep issues, malnutrition, gastric ulcer, and epileptic seizures. And common comorbidities for gaming disorder includes ADHD and depression, anxiety, bipolar, and sleeping and personality disorders. And when it comes to clinical evaluation, we had the consensus that early screening and comprehensive evaluation for gaming disorder is pivotal for the management of gaming disorder, because it can help for early identification, early diagnosis, and early intervention. And it can also improve cost effectiveness, and it can help to alleviate the distress and burden for gaming disorder patients and their families. And it can also help to improve life quality for gaming disorder patients. But when we are doing an evaluation for an individual, what should we focus on? First one, we need to know if this person has a gaming disorder or not. If yes, how severe it is. Then we need to know if this person has physical or psychological problems except gaming disorder itself. We also need to know social function, this person's social functioning and related information. For example, this person's academic or professional performance, interpersonal relationships, and life quality, and among other things. And we also need to know potential comorbidities other than GD. And we also need to figure it out that those factors related to treatment and recovery, for example, treatment compliance and self-efficacy and social support, and this person's social economic status, etc. And for recommended tools for gaming disorder, Chinese experts had the consensus that nowadays there is no perfect tools for clinical evaluation for gaming disorder. But for now, what we can use is internet gaming disorder scales, which has 9 items based on DSM-5. I think this scale is available in the different languages, including Chinese, English, French, and Turkish. So if you are interested in these scales, you can easily find it on the internet. And for diagnosis and differential diagnosis for gaming disorder, again, we need to pay attention to those 5 core for gaming disorder, which I will not repeat it here. But for course feature, the pattern of gaming disorder should be manifested over 12 months normally, but there is an exception. But if the symptoms are very severe, we can reduce the period to 6 months. And for exclusion feature, the pathological pattern of gaming disorder is not better accounted for by another mental disorder, and it is not because of a substance or medication. And in the clinical settings, when we are making diagnosis for gaming disorder, we should differentiate gaming disorder with normal gaming and hazardous gaming, gambling disorder, anxiety, depression, bipolar, and personality disorders. And the last one is disorder due to substance use. Then the Chinese experts gave 4 treatment principles for gaming disorder. The first one is prevention first. So for now, because the evidence for gaming disorder is not that abundant, so basically what we can do is we just prevent the disorder instead of just treat the disorder, because to be honest, we don't have much evidence methods to treat the disorder for now. And the second principle is evidence-based, and the third is ethical, because Dr. Daniel King mentioned that in some countries there were some unethical methods used for gaming disorder, which is not should not be done. And then the last one is comprehensive intervention. So the first one is that in the clinical settings, we can use psychological approaches, along with, in some cases, we can use some pharmacological approaches for the treatment for gaming disorder. And intervention for gaming disorder is not the only responsibility for hospitals or other medical service facilities. Schools, families, and the whole society should be involved for the intervention for gaming disorder. Then, regarding specific intervention methods, the Chinese experts believe that psychotherapy is the best methods for intervention for now. There are 2 recommended therapies, including cognitive behavioral therapy and motivational interview. For pharmacotherapies, there is no specific medication were recommended, but for those accompanying health issue with gaming disorder, we can use other medications to treat those health issues instead of gaming disorder itself. Then for physiotherapy, RTMS was recommended as a potential and promising method to treat gaming disorder. But at the same time, Chinese experts acknowledge that the evidence for this treatment is not sufficient. We need to do more research on this one. And regarding management suggestions, there are 3. The first one is that we can use multiple levels of prevention for gaming disorder, which can involve, like I said, hospitals, the whole society, families, and the schools. And the second one is continuous assessment and evaluation throughout the whole process of treatment. And the last management suggestion is long-term and regular follow-up after the recovery. It could be beneficial for to avoid relapse of gaming disorder. I'm going to show you this slide is indulgence system for online gaming among minors. This is one method of prevention in China. The Chinese government spent more than 15 years to develop this comprehensive system just to prevent minors from harms caused by excessive online gaming. It's very comprehensive. I will need like 2 hours to elaborate for this system. But if you are interested, you can find some information on the internet. And I believe that South Korea also has this similar system for populations at risk in their country. And I'm gonna finish my my presentation with this slide. So we basically, I have like four thoughts in the end. So the first one is existing evidence on gaming disorder and its related issues is not sufficient at the moment for clinical use. So more empirical research on gaming disorder with the ICD-11 definition and the criteria and descriptions is needed. And better diagnostic and screening instruments for gaming disorder and clinical guidelines for gaming disorder are needed by medical professionals all over the world. That for the diagnostic and screening instruments that I know the WHO is working on that, and Natasha is working on that. But I hope that clinical guidelines for gaming disorder can be developed, led by the WHO. That's my last slide. And in the end, I would like to thank you for your attention and thank you for our host and our chairman. And in 2017, 17, yeah, we had the Congress, I think it's the fourth one, in Istanbul. We had wonderful time there, and they did an amazing job. Everyone had beautiful memories for that. I just want to thank you for that. Okay, that's my whole presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jiang Long. Okay, everyone, Dr. Jiang Long already highlighted us that, and in China, we have the 518 million of online game users in 2020, and it worries because of many young people are involved with the gaming and online gaming. And then we have the ICD-11, and then thank you very much, Dr. Jiang Long, for sharing your national guideline. I think very informative for maybe those countries that are developing their own national guideline. Maybe we can have an idea how you have come out with your national guideline, very details, your sharing. I'm interested with your features and the personality. You highlighted the personality, in the health related disorder in terms of their psychological effect, physical and social impact on the gaming disorder. And usually the clinical guideline focus on the treatment for the patient. But you see that Dr. Jiang Long highlighted the level of prevention. And I think again and again, Dr. Jiang Long highlighted many times the primary intervention in the societies itself, in the families, in the communities, and for the primary prevention. Because this is I think the fine liner, the first phase that we can reduce the numbers of prevalence and for becoming race, and more people will affected, and the young generation will have facing these health consequences. Okay, so sharp. I think we have another 10 minutes for Q&A session for all the panels. Okay, we wait for the question. Some of the question already asked in Q&A. Dr. Natasha already answered so some of the question. Thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask all the panels in Q&A box or in chat. We can read the questions. You can just type any questions in Q&A session or in chat.
Mr. Fairuz, do you hear me? Yeah. I think you can't see the questions. Am I right?
Okay.
Can you see the questions from?
Okay. Now I receive the questions.
Okay.
We have 3 questions. Okay. So I go for the first question. Okay. What are the prevention and intervention strategies that you develop for gambling and gaming as a result from your survey?
I think that question is directed to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So we haven't developed anything per se. However, the survey added to our mandate that we received from experts from different arenas, that we really do need to develop guidelines for the management of gaming and gaming disorder and gambling disorder. So there are plans to do this. It's a very systematic and rigorous approach to develop guidelines. It involves the steering group going through different procedures. So we do plan to start that this year.
Okay, good. The next question, what do you suggest to the countries to develop policies based on the current data?
I think maybe I can answer this first, and other my colleagues can just supplement. So basically, for those countries who are not having any policies or regulations on gaming disorder or gaming industry, I would say that the first one is that every measures and every decisions have to be evidence-based. So, but the problem is that nowadays we don't have sufficient evidence, but we do for prevention. I think we do have a lot of evidence for that. So for now, maybe for treatment or for treatment, we don't have enough evidence especially for medications and such things. But I know that in Korea, in South Korea, in Japan, and in China, they did a lot of regulations and policies on just for prevention for gaming disorder. And I think it has been like many years. So they do have lots of experiences and data on in this regard. So basically, other countries can just borrow those experiences, and maybe I do know that at least in China and in South Korea, they also have some data about this. So maybe we can use those data and experiences in those pioneering countries, and we can make some regulations and policies. And again, I would like to highlight that every country is different because economic level and cultural factors, it's different. They are different. So basically, when you are doing regulations and policies, you have to also realize this one, and you have to maybe you want to put into your actions when considering this. Yeah, maybe Natasha and Sophia has something to complement.
I agree with Zhang's comments, and also I think it's useful to look at other areas. So gaming disorder is a relatively new area, but echoing a point that Dr. Daniel King raised earlier today, let's look at other more established fields such as gambling and also alcohol, where Professor Thomas Babor has commented. We know that mandatory measures, policies are much more effective rather than self-regulatory measures. So I think we can also learn from other addictive behaviour fields about the policy avenues we should go down.
Okay, thank you for the answer. So we go for the next questions. What are your suggestions to the
Sophia?
practitioner?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes, I would like to add.
Come.
Sorry for that.
Yes, come.
I like to add, I completely agree with my colleagues, and Daniel Kill has presented some kind of public health measures and policy making all over the world, and also what they end up with the outcomes and what is needed. But also one of the vision that should be in the mind of people thinking about developing something about in terms of strategic planning, it's the balance to reach between the positive aspects of technology one of the main issues which is critical at the very beginning to developing an established public health plan is to train professionals. Disorder, and there will be multipliers. A capacity building tool, which is cross. And the last thing is that not only focus on adolescents and children, but also adults, because it has an impact on the employment, it has an impact on the couples and the partnership relationships, and also elderly, which is a problem that we will see in the upcoming years. And for this purpose, you can rely on the article that we just published for Swiss sample and Poland in Frontier.
Okay, I have a question for Dr. Natasha. What are your suggestions to the practitioner to prevent technology addiction while working with the parents for conscious and controlled use of technology in order to prevent technology addiction in early childhood, including gaming, gambling, smartphone usage, social media addiction, and etc.?
Thank you for the question. WHO published some guidance on these issues last year in response to the pandemic. There are guidelines specifically for parents and guardians, as well as policymakers and other stakeholders. We have fact sheets and infographics, and that's based on our EMERO website. So if you Google gaming disorder pandemic EMERO, that should come up, and it's guidelines such as trying to maintain a balance between online and offline activities, trying to maintain regular sleep patterns with young children, good eating habits, educating them about cyberbullying, cyber fraud, some of the harms associated with excessive gaming and digital use. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think you also already posted the link, right?
The link,
in the Q&A. Yeah, okay.
There are other sources. There are other sources. This is just one source. There are other sources in the literature as well.
Okay, thank you. Above 65.
Yes. Of these profiles, as for others, it's just we just have to think about it for these age groups. But it is as for the other as described by ICD 11 items, and reach in the treatment for gaming disorder. What is the positive thing that this person will go for when she will be released from the gaming disorder? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So last question, I think we already 1 minute past the time. Okay, last question for Dr. Jiang Long. Playing game is quite popular among young Chinese people. So what do young people think about gaming disorder?
So basically, I think in China, for gaming disorder, I think it's absolutely a controversial issue in China because, you know, because gaming, including WHO and like my hospital, we absolutely think gaming is proper. It's in some cases they are even beneficial for kids, for people, because it's a normal entertainment way. But in a lot of people do have, you know, negatively affected by gaming behavior. It was very controversial issue, and a lot of kids, especially young people, they were making fun out of this in social media, and they don't like it. But I think after like several years, our government and our like hospitals, mental health centers, they made a lot of efforts to advocate the notion gaming disorder and explain how gaming disorder is, what is gaming disorder, and not you are playing game, then you are wasting to explain gaming disorder and explain what game is, and it can be good, it can be bad, but the key point is that you have to use it wisely. And now I think the whole society accepts gaming disorder, this notion, quite well. And I think health literacy for gaming disorder is increasing, and I think now everyone is handling good with the notion gaming disorder in the Chinese society. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer, Dr. Jiang Long. And I think we need to conclude our session. And thank you very much for all the speakers. I think we have a lot of sharing of the information, knowledge, and from all the speakers. And now we have end our time. Thank you very much. I think we have many other questions. I think you can. All the speakers already posted their emails. I think you can specifically email to all the speakers, and all the speakers, I think they will respond and of all your concern and for the futures and the collaboration between other countries and sharing the information. I think we need to proceed with that. Okay, so now I pass the floor to the MC. Thank you very much to all the speakers and all the audience and participants.
Thank you.
We would like to thank you, first of all. We would like to extend sincere thanks to our speakers and the chair for their engaging presentation and valuable contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our panel is concluded with the Q&A session. See you at our next. But before the break, I would like to remind that the Congress will continue with our invaluable speakers and further knowledge. Now we'll have 30 minutes break until 1 p.m. During that time, a high school student from Bolu, Turkey, will present a paper on technology addiction. Özge Türkmen from Bolu Social Sciences High School will present a paper titled Technology Used Among Preschool Children. If you would like to join this presentation demonstrating our youth support in struggling with addiction, it will be so precious to appreciate their efforts. Let's witness their presentation together. I wish to see you all again at 1 p.m.